Hello, Blue Jay fans. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 6 of the We Want More Vodcast.
Winds up, takes it, goes forward, scores another one for Hopkins.
The test was just called right in there. Shot to goal right out front. The Blue Jays
does not wear a brace. Never has shown any adverse effects. Harrison with it. Big shot. Scores! Kyle Harrison goes high. That's it. It's over. Johns Hopkins has won its ninth national championship.
We're joined by Coach Pete Milliman. Coach, thanks for spending some time with us today.
Absolutely. How are you guys?
Doing well. So, at this point, we're over halfway through the season. It's pretty wild to think about. I mean, I'm sure for you, it feels like it was just yesterday. We were getting out there in preseason and, snow was hitting the ground. It was cold out. We were just talking about how the weather is getting nice and warm. But, at this point in the season, like, what's really stuck out to you about this team?
That's a great question. I mean, it's wild for your reference to be at this point halfway through the season. You work so long to get to that first game, and then it just starts moving quickly. So, just keeping level-headed and feet on the ground and stuff like that, I think is important. But I think this group of guys really battles. I don't know if we're getting the best 60 minutes every week, and we're working on that, as I think every team is always doing. But we've shown the ability to battle through some situations. We've had a lot of adverse conditions. We are playing a tough schedule. There's no excuses to any of it. But I believe in the group that we have, and I trust that there's no quit in them. They've got a lot of strength in their connection, in their belief of what we're capable of, and I think that's a big driver for it. It speaks to the leadership of the group and the commitment from the group all the way across.
Yeah, and I think kind of a couple notable wins early on in the season, then a couple tough losses to very quality teams. There's obviously no moral victories, but what do you take knowing that the ball bounces this way or that way? You guys have 0 in the L column.
The game, especially against top level competition, is going to come down to a few plays, or at least you would assume so. When good teams are playing really well, a couple balls bounce one way or another is gonna make a difference. But you hold your destiny in your own hands, and you get a chance to make your own plays, and you put yourself in situations to be successful over and over again. You can't afford the mental lapse, the loss of focus in situations, because we're playing a grueling schedule, and everybody we play is coming after us. We're the top of the list there, and we don't get the luxury of taking a break or taking a big deep breath against a below average team. But I think the guys have the grit and the resilience to be built this way, and seeing the opportunity to rise to the occasion, to show up, start a game against tough opponent, battle through some situations, and handle adverse conditions. I think we're very close. If you track our game goals over the course of the season, if we aren't, and we're not 100% on them by any means, but say we're 5 out of 10 on those, I would say the other 5 we're tracking very closely. We're not way off in huge margins, which I think is a good indicator that we are, we're putting ourselves in a situation to be competitive every game, and we need to be on the right side of that. But we're not going to be flawless, and we also got to accept that. We're just working towards it.
Yeah, and then to piggyback on that, kind of halfway through the season here, looking ahead, what are, and I'm sure you do this all the time, but if you could just pick two things to improve on, anywhere on the field, on the sideline, in the box, wherever it may be. Give us a little insight into those.
I got one, which is pretty clear, and this was the one that we took away from the Syracuse game the other day, and this is a big driver for us going forward, and that's the ground balls. It's a determinant of the possession battle. There's a lot of other things that play into the possession battle, but that is the biggest factor. It's not just face-offs. They won multiple ground balls on their offensive end, and we lost multiple ground balls on our offensive end. And so, they were putting a pretty good example on the field for us to see, the type of toughness that it takes to come up with offensive end ground balls. Like, you get those resets. That's really demoralizing for a defense to not get that stop. And you can see on the defensive end of the field, like, how hard it is to dig in and fight another 60 more seconds, or, you fail a clear and you lose a loose ball. Like, that's two stops. And so that's the biggest focus point right now. I think of all the other things that are in the mix here, like, we cannot expect to be a championship caliber team and be a sub 500 ground ball team. Like, we're not going to lose the possession battle and think we just make that up because we're more efficient on either end of the field, or we're a higher percentage right and clear team, or anything like that. Those factors will definitely make a difference in the long run, but nothing bigger than the ground ball battle.
Yeah, Coach, last week against Cuse, that was, the last of 3 straight ACC games for us, so a tough stretch of the season. Kind of followed script a little bit, go down a little bit early, 3-0. We talked last week about just the unique environment the Dome is. Do you think that has a little bit to do with the young guys we have on the team and maybe not having that experience of being up in the Dome before?
I mean, it's a good possibility. You can't write that off, no matter how much you trust the mentality of your team. It's always going to be a factor. But at the end of the day, I think our goal is to build a group of guys that handle any adversity in the same way. They just, it's just part of the programming. It's part of the challenge that comes in, whether they have, a bigger kid or a faster kid, or, they play on turf as opposed to grass, or they play inside or outside, or they don't ever play anywhere else because this is the only home games. They schedule everything in there, and, that it's got a different backdrop, or it's just part of the formula. And so we try and message that consistently. We try and build the mentality around, whatever comes at us, whatever comes out the gates, like, just get yourself ready and prepared. We go into battle together. And I think that's something that I was pleased with how they handled that for the most part. I didn't think that the Dome factor, so to speak, rattled us, and we were, losing composure all over the place, this and that. I think at the end of the day, I think Syracuse played hard. They played very well in that place. They played to their advantages. And I don't think we were as sharp as we could have been. And maybe you could attribute some of that to the Dome. I think it's possible. But I think the bigger difference to me was how hard we fought for ground balls. And I think if that would have looked different, then I wouldn't even have noticed whether we were playing inside or outside.
Yeah. And then I know we've talked about the slow starts and clawing back. So it happens again on Sunday, and Quentin makes a great play and gets one to Charlie Eiler right before halftime, and we take a 6-5 lead going into the halftime. What's the vibe at that point in the locker room, considering another slow start, but we clawed back and we have a 1-goal lead heading into halftime here?
I mean, it was great. I think the energy was great. Guys, maintained composure, they maintained confidence. The communication was consistent the whole way through. I think we felt like we were doing what we needed to be successful. And while we have to make some adjustments, we weren't way off script by any means. And I think coming out of that third quarter, that was where there was a difference. Maybe we took that breath in the locker room at halftime. Maybe maybe they found a way to dig in a little bit harder, and we didn't challenge our guys enough, coming out of the locker room. So there was definitely a difference in the way we fought for loose balls in that third quarter, and that's what separated, I think, the game. Again, they're an opportunistic team. They don't need a ton of chances to find some net, and we gave them too many. But it didn't separate to a degree where we couldn't finish the game. So there's always a few plays that you leave out there. You wish you had back.
Yeah, at one point, third quarter, we're up 8-6, and then typical Cuse kind of going a three-goal run. Cuse is up 9-8 going into the fourth. What did we try to hammer home in between third and fourth quarter to try and finish out the game?
I mean, I think there was a great opportunity for the captains, the leaders, to step up on the team. I always hear Dylan, I always hear Scotty, Patrick for sure. I heard Pat Hackler at times in there. I heard, some of the other older guys, some guys, younger guys, Hunter Chevette's not as old as some of the other guys, but he, speaks up. I think there's a lot of other opportunity in there to reinforce the mentality of competing and fighting for each other, maintain your composure, have one play at a time, and just stay singularly focused on that, whatever the score is. And um, I don't think that there was anything different in there. I think there were some opportunities in that fourth quarter that we didn't capitalize on, and maybe there was some mismanagement of timing or lines or game plan. We'll own any of that. We're not going to get those things perfect every time. We looking back in hindsight, would have done a couple things differently, but I think we were in position to make plays, and like you said at the beginning, one thing didn't bounce our way. It doesn't mean it's the end of the day, but we got to find out to stack those wins.
Yeah, and we're obviously Brock and I are biased to the defensive end of the field, and in particular in between the pipes. Luke Stat makes a couple kind of point blank saves, lets a couple kind of from deep. Great shooters on that team at all six positions, always on the field. What are you seeing with him or not seeing, and just an overall kind of judgment on his play?
Yeah, I don't think Luke had his best day. I'm not gonna be telling anybody a new story or big surprise there. I think we had some faith that we could be a little bit better in the second half, that we could make some of those plays we needed to. I think our defense was solid for the most part, but I don't think they were their best that day either. And all told, if we were thinking about making a move or where we were in that, we were always, until the middle of the fourth quarter, we were in a 1-goal game. We were winning. It's hard at that point to make a big change or to feel like it's needed because we were battling. So. Luke needs to keep working on fundamentals and his footwork and the basics that we talk about every day. He's a great kid. He's a great competitor. We're always going to have belief in him. And he has all the opportunity in the world to continue to dig in and make those improvements. We're, going to have to make sure we're evaluating the best of our ability, making decisions that are for the team's best interest and supporting and trusting our guys all the way through. So it's one game at a time, one day at a time, and and still having the belief that we have what we need. We just gotta find a way to dig in and get better.
Yeah, and you know this, and I know Brock knows this. It's all about having a short memory in the goal. Whether you make the save or you give up the goal or lose the game, you got to turn around and just make the next save every time.
Absolutely, it's a hard place to be, but that's what you sign up for when you're a little kid, and they give you your first goalie stick, and there you are.
That's right. That's right.
Well, speaking of next one mentality, we'll hop into Navy here in a second, Coach. But before that, we're going to do our player spotlight. Today, co-captain Dylan Bauer is joined by graduate student Jack Monfort. Let's pop over and see how those guys are doing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dylan Bauer, a graduate student midfielder and co-captain. I'm super excited to be back for another week of the player interviews on the We Want More Vodcast. And today I'm joined by a very special guest, Jack Monfort, graduate student, and my roommate. Everyone calls him Monty, so that's what I'll be calling him today. Welcome, Monty.
Thanks for having me, Dylan.
Absolutely. Well, we'll start off nice and simple. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe a little bit about your family and where you're from.
Yeah, sure. From Strong Island, New York. Grew up in Syosset and moved to Huntington right before I came to college. And then I got a younger brother, 2 older sisters. Yeah.
Right on. So you're a graduate student. You played your undergrad at Yale. Tell us a little bit about your path to Hopkins and what you were looking for in a program for your final year.
Yeah, I actually have a pretty cool story. When I went back home over break, I was cleaning out my attic and I found a letter that I'd written myself when I was in the 5th grade. And one of the things that I wrote to myself, it was a letter to my future self. And one of the things that I said is I hope one day I could play lacrosse at Johns Hopkins University. Obviously, my original school was not Johns Hopkins, but I think having the opportunity to come here has been awesome, and it's kind of like I'm living my younger self's dream. Yale and Johns Hopkins are very similar culture-wise. Guys are very similar. We got a few more Canadians on this team, which could be good, could be bad, depending on how you look at it. Um, but I think our practices are structured pretty similarly. Yeah.
Right on. You also came to Hopkins with a Yale teammate, Patrick Hackler. Was there ever a we are a package deal discussion, or did you guys just kind of look independently and it just kind of worked out that you guys ended up in the same spot?
I think it was always we are a package deal. I think we decided before our senior year, just because of how COVID worked out and everything. If we wanted to do the extra year at Yale, we would have had to take off a couple semesters. And we both said if we're going to do 6 years of school, we better have a master's degree. And also, we wanted to get a different experience. So we always said we were going to stick together. And thank God it worked out that way because going to a place that's foreign by yourself is definitely a little uneasy. So it's nice to kind of have someone in your corner.
Yeah, that kind of transitions us into my next question, which was, how was the transition from Yale to Hopkins, and maybe what is your favorite thing about Hopkins so far?
Yeah, so I think the transition was, it was relatively easy, and I say that mostly because I'm an older guy. I think if I were to do it when I was, a freshman or sophomore, I think it would definitely be different. Yale has an extremely hard workout plan. The practices we get after it, and I think that's the same thing here. Like I said earlier, we have a very similar culture. Here we get after it in practice. Coach Dyer pushes us in the weight room. We're all hooting and hollering at all times. I would say my favorite thing here, definitely the kitchen in the locker in Cordish locker room. Cheese sticks. We got our coconut water, all that good stuff. But also another favorite part about Johns Hopkins is having Coach Jay Dyer here. I've known him for years and years, and he's helped me out a lot. And he was the first person that actually called me when I entered the transfer portal. So I know that's not like a specific thing, but it's a specific person that has definitely made this experience a lot more enjoyable.
Definitely. Coach Shay's the man. So you and Pat stepped into a position, short stick defensive midfield, where we lost a lot of guys from last year who played high minutes. Just talk about how you kind of had to immediately be a leader in that group and what it's like to play for Coach K.
Yeah, I think having Patrick and I here is pretty beneficial. And we're two very different guys. Hackler's a big X's and O's guy. He knows the game extremely well, and I love connecting with the guys off the field on a different level. So I think having that two different sides to it has been great. You don't realize how old you are until you walk into the locker room, and then the kid next to you says they're 18 years old. So it's kind of funny looking back. When I came into college, I was like 160 pounds, and then I came here and the guys were a little bit smaller, and I was put in charge of the weight gaining program, which is kind of funny because I was the guy at Yale that was the skinny guy and could never gain weight. So it's actually been, I think it's helped the guys a lot that are in that program. I've helped Carmelo Pace, Reese Chico, Kieran, a bunch of those guys. They've gained some great weight, boosted their confidence a ton. And then also you hear Hackler on the field all the time. I mean, he loves getting after guys, loves talking in film. Like he really knows his stuff. So I think it's good having those two different sides.
Definitely. So your mom, dad, and sister were all college athletes. Pretty athletic family. Trick question. Who is the better athlete, mom or dad? Before you answer this, just know they might be watching this, and there's only one right answer.
My mother.
There you go.
So I would say my dad when he was younger. I would say my mom would smoke him now. Uh, but yeah.
Right on. All right. Well, now we get to get into some of the more fun questions. My favorite part. If you could be the best at any sport in the world, what sport would you play and why?
Oh, golf, easily. I mean, my knees are starting to get a little achy. So I think being able to play golf and actually be good at it and enjoy it and smile the whole time, be able to play until you're, 75 years old, that would be unreal for me. It's not too fun when you're shooting over 100, but if I could crank that down to about, low 70s, that would be great. But well, maybe in a few years.
Definitely. So for those of you guys that don't know Monfort, he is one of the most sociable guys I've ever met in my life. He's constantly sparking conversations with everyone, and I've never seen somebody on more phone calls than him in my life. So my question is, Monfort, if you could choose to have a conversation with one person in the whole world, who would you talk to and what would be the conversation?
I would definitely say Elvis Presley. And I say that because I watched the Elvis movie and, I've always known about him and I like actually got to look into his life a little bit and it's been absolutely nuts. I mean, he was the biggest rock star in the world. His songs are awesome. So yeah, I mean, he lived a really crazy lifestyle.
That segues perfectly into my next question. And Monfort is known to have an unbelievable voice. I haven't been able to hear it yet. I know one day I will. But if you were to start a band and you were the lead singer, who would fill the other spots of your band on our team?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, I mean, you definitely have to have Desi Russell Melendez, either working beats or on the mic as well. T Jewel keeps talking about trying to start a band. I heard Krogan play some guitar. He's good. I hear you downstairs jamming out a little bit. So I think we got like a good crop of probably five guys that could probably hop in a band together and sound semi good. And then I'd obviously have I'd have Phil in the back, working all the electronics and whatnot.
Okay, so who is the smoothest guy on our team with the ladies?
Smoothest guy on the team. Charlie Eiler is pretty smooth. I mean, I see him navigating around some conversations with some pretty good-looking females. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but we're riding with it. Yeah, I'd say Charlie Eiler. Yeah.
Right on. If you could make your own midfield line with you on it, who would fill the other two spots?
I would say me, Patrick Hackler, two-way guys, and Dylan Bauer, baby.
Let's go.
Yep.
Let's go.
Because I know you'd run off, we'd get a little more time on the field with you running off. So
100%. If you could go on a cross country road trip with anyone on the team, who would you go with and why?
who would I go with? Oh, I'd probably throw Reese DeChico in there. Canadian, real funny guy. Um, I think I'd probably also take Ryan Evans just so it could be a little unpredictable.
The Patriot.
Tristan, what's that?
The Patriot.
Yeah, the Patriot. And then I'd probably also take, I would say JoJo, but he'd be screaming the whole time. Chuck Rawson, funny guy. I'd definitely have him on there. And then, got to go with Scott Smith. I mean, what a stand-up guy.
Good answer. Good answer. All right, last question. Where is the best slice of pizza on Long Island?
Best slice of pizza. I'd probably say Rosa's, and I would specifically recommend their vodka slice. Every time I go home, before I even hit home, I stop there first and I get a couple slices of vodka slices. People like to talk about Little Vincent's as well because Dave Portnoy with his pizza review. But I would definitely say Rosa's.
Right on. Well, thanks for joining us, Jack. And it was a pleasure being on another week of the We Want More vodcast. And I'll see you guys next week.
Dylan, thank you for this. This was awesome.
Right on.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, fellas. Coach, tell us a little bit about Jack. Yale transfer. What kind of impact has he had for us this year?
Great. Yeah, he's got a great energy, personality plus. He comes in with a lot of fire. He competes, he's a good athletic, physical short stick D midi. Like I think most guys in those positions, is that he's an ex-attackman trapped in a short stick D midi's body. He'll tell you all day long about the dodging and the shooting opportunities we're leaving on the sideline when he's not getting his number called over there. But great teammate. Really, really lucky to have him. We were excited to get him in through the recruiting process. But he's a vocal, competitive guy. Comes from a great program, and I think a lot of those attributes are building into the development of the younger guys, but the group overall.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think one of the staples here the past few years is some key graduate transfers that we've brought in. You think of Chase Erlin, Alex Mazzone, and now we have Jack and Patrick and Luke. When you and your staff are kind of looking in the transfer pool, right? What are you thinking? What are you looking for in some of those guys?
Yeah, it's a great question. First and foremost, we're looking for guys who are going to be, teammates first. Anywhere we're looking to bring somebody in, if it's for a 1 or a 2 year stint, or an opportunity to come compete for some time, they have to fit into the identity of what we're doing here as a team. As Hopkins is not for everybody. You guys know that as well as anybody. Not everybody wants to be here. Not everybody has the ability to handle the rigor of what it takes to be here. The expectation and the resilience of what it takes to be a member of this program and play out on Homewood Field. So that's a big piece of the evaluations. We got to make sure that we're not just looking for guys who, run fast or can shoot the ball, or, big scary defensemen. Like, those are obviously attributes that are appealing, but guys need to fit. And this is one of those things that, I think everybody understands, but maybe don't really see all the way through to the realization, is that, if you bring in a player for a 1 year commitment for a 1 year stint, they're more than likely displacing somebody that's worked for a couple years to earn that spot. And there has to be a reality to how you're managing that with the group, and how that messaging is going throughout, that, we're putting the guys on the field there to help us be successful. But, this is not a program where we're just looking for hired guns. We're looking for guys that are going to make us better, because that's a big part of what we do here. But the work and the value of what you do day in and day out, all year long, all career, it does not get washed away. It does not get undermined by somebody who's got some more experience. And so, it brings on some challenging conversations. It's not a foreign concept to anybody that talks about transfers, but it's a little bit harder when you're working through it on the day-to-days, and some of those real conversations come up, some of those real, challenging situations where, guys desperately want to be in that spot. Just to circle back to the beginning, I think the guys that you mentioned have done a very good job of setting a tone in that regard, being leaders there and having a voice and earning that job, not just showing up and getting it because they're better. Like, they put the work on the field. Nobody was handed anything. Everybody had an opportunity to compete for it. Therein lies the honesty and the transparency of it, as if it plays out the right way.
Yeah, and I mean, you always say, oh, sports are a business, but it's just part of the game, and everyone's going through it right now. So that's some good insight there. Let's kick over to this weekend. Another rivalry game. I feel like we talk about it every week. 94th matchup this time between the Blue Jays and the Midshipmen. What are you seeing on film so far from Navy? Obviously, they're going to be a well-coached team. They're going to be a disciplined team, and they're going to play as hard as anyone. Whether they're down 5 or up 5. So on film, what do you see from them? Where do they pose a threat to us?
I don't want to jump in and say everywhere, but I'm gonna identify the point of focus that I mentioned a minute ago is ground balls. I think that they battle there as well as anybody. Yeah, they really do. From the face-off, their long pulls on the wings, on their defensive end of the field, they swarm it really well. You guys again know as well as anybody, and any of our listeners or alums know that when you play the Naval Academy, like, they're all going to be physical, they're all going to be competitive and tough kids. Like, that's just thank God that's who they bring there. But that's the version that you're going to get on the game field, and so we need to be ready for that test. We need to be ready to soak a couple checks on the fingers. We need to be able to run through some sticks and maybe take a couple bumps on the hips and whatever, and just know that we've got what we need if we really believe that ball is going to be ours when we see it hit the deck. We got to get out there right away and we got to go attack it. And this team will play us as hard as anybody does. You know that Navy circles 2 games on their schedule every year, one for obvious reasons, and then the other one for us. And we're gonna get the best version that they have all year. And they have shown to play really high level at times, and some other times they can be inconsistent. But who isn't right now? We're talking about midseason lacrosse that we're starting to find our groove. Everybody's been through the battle early on, so we need to get sharper, we need to get tougher, and we need to make plays.
Absolutely. And Navy is, if you don't know this, I'm going to be the bearer of bad news here. They're plus 16 in the first and third quarters. Hopkins is maybe in the first 5 minutes negative, a lot. What's the message? Obviously, we need to come out strong. We need to come out fast. They're rah rah. How do we nail it home that this is real? This is real. These guys will jump on you when they come out of the locker room. Not only do you have to soak that, but you gotta take advantage.
That's a challenge. What you're referencing right there. That's the identity of coaching and developing and building and understanding. As a team, we got to pinpoint an aspect of the game that we need to do better. We need to find a strategy to get better at it, and then we need to hold ourselves accountable to it. I think we've messaged a lot of those things this week. We've built ground ball starts into pretty much everything that we've been doing all week. Finding an opportunity to elevate that piece of the game. On the offensive end of the field, we're going to try something tomorrow that I'm hoping plays out well. But the idea is giving us an advantage opportunity to finish a shot in a specific situation, and that will earn us the 6-on-6. If we don't finish those, then we're bailing out on an easy opportunity, or we're not taking advantage of one presented to us. There can't be an ounce of casual in what we do. And, we did a lot of 4-on-4s today that started with a ground ball. And, if you don't win that ground ball, you don't get a chance to play offense. Defense doesn't win that ground ball. Now they got to make a stop. And there's a reliance on each other in those situations, but also, a demand for each other to be their best. You can't accept anybody making a casual play in those situations. And I think that, to answer your question the best I can, that's been the intent of the practicing this week. Let's pare down on some of the scout material. Let's not overthink the game plan. Like, we got to get in there and do hard things. We got to do them consistently.
Get after it.
Yeah, Coach, I was able to pop out the practice a little bit this morning, and it's like we scripted it up. I came out and we were doing ground balls. It was awesome to see. But was able to kind of check in with some of the guys, and everyone seems to be in a good spot, have good energy. We're at kind of a cool part of the season, right? We got Navy this weekend, and then Big Ten season comes up. And as somebody who's kind of lived and played in the Big Ten, it can be easy for guys to kind of fall into the trap of looking too far ahead. How do we feel like we are in that case, and trying to keep the guys focused for Navy first, and then kind of moving forward to the Big Ten?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great, very fair point. I referenced that in my messaging earlier this week, or when we were introducing the scout. That's been one of the challenges for probably the last 3 years, is that this is the last game we're playing before we go into Big Ten, or in this situation, maybe we are looking ahead, or maybe we just finished playing 3 ACCs and now we're starting to turn our focus to the games that are going to mean a little bit more towards tournament seeding or whatnot, and placed perfectly right in between there is a very, very tough, very challenging, very motivated, rivalry team that is very easy to overlook. And so, we can't let that message go unsaid. We can't let that message get missed at all. Trying to make it front and center, not overemphasizing or trying to put a fear into the guys about it. But we haven't played great lacrosse the last couple of years. We've played them. It's been a tough game. It hasn't been necessarily pretty. I don't know if anybody really cares if you're looking for that. We just need to come out on the right end of it. And so, we need to make sure that our whole world right now is Navy, and that's all there is to it. And keeping the focus right where we are, and trying to, like I mentioned a minute ago, build in that same mentality into every drill. That it starts with this ground ball, and that's all that matters. Or you got a 2-on-1, you find a way to get that ball in the net, or you don't get to play half field offense. And if our guys can sharpen that focus and maybe harden that resolve a little bit more, I think it will lead to some better some better play in those areas, not just are we running the right starter, or are we defending this pick play on defense the right way, things like that. I mean, those obviously they're crucial, but never going to take priority over the mentality of the way we're playing.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That's great insight. All right, we're going to wrap up Navy and talk about some fun things here. So I think Dylan Bauer's been doing a phenomenal job handling our player spotlight. I mean, just personal, and his energy kind of really shines through the screen. If he were unable to, or if he had a week-to-week injury, who's stepping up in Dylan's spot in that role?
That's a great question. You know what I thought of not a minute ago, a little while ago. Ernie mentioned this the other day. We were doing the spotlights. If you start having the guy that they interview just turn around and do them, I think the reason I thought of that was because I think Charlie Eiler would be my first pick if it was somebody else. Eiler's got a good personality, he's good charisma. He's from California, so he's super cool, and I think the guys really enjoy him. So I think he'd probably be my pick.
Awesome.
Yeah, Coach, one final point here. I think when everyone kind of thinks of Johns Hopkins, they automatically think, men's lacrosse, and for good reason. And, but I think one thing we're very fortunate to have is athletic department that sees a ton of success everywhere. We got our women's basketball in the Sweet 16. Women's lacrosse got a staple win against Syracuse this past week. Our baseball team's currently ranked 3rd in the nation. What's it like to work in an athletic department like this where everyone's seeing success and everyone's winning?
It's great. It's motivating. It can be humbling at times because we're in a meeting and somebody gets congratulated on a big win, and then Coach Babb gets congratulated on like his 40,000th win. As a baseball coach, our women's basketball coach won the conference and finished the season, I think, 24-4, which brought his 2-season record to 48-8, and that's entering the NCAA tournament. So you get a reality check of how hard these other athletes work, how much these other coaches care, and brings a good perspective into your eyes that you're digging in. It's a grueling schedule, but at the end of the day, this is where we are. We're Johns Hopkins. The standards are high. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to be high achieving. These are all very capable, young men and women, and they care very much about the success of Johns Hopkins.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Coach. As always, we appreciate your time. We're going to head over to our alumni spot week. This week, we're joined by Adam Doneger, as a 2003 graduate.
Felt the shooting pain in my knee. Oh, I don't know what I did, but I did something. I stepped off to the side again and it buckled. The plan is to get you to run again. The plan is to get you back to where you were. We can fix this.
To know that I could be back out there.
I'm way better now than I was pre-surgery.
Welcome to Johns Hopkins.
All right, Blue Jay fans, we are joined now by Adam Doneger. Adam is a 2003 graduate and 2-time captain. Adam, thanks for being with us today. Can you inform everybody, what have you been up to since graduating from Hopkins?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So I graduated college in 2003. I moved to New York, and I immediately got into the commercial real estate business. So now I'm currently at a firm called Newmark, and I'm a partner in what's known as our capital markets platform. So basically all things commercial real estate. We have a national business, all asset classes, where we basically represent owners that are looking to monetize their real estate. That could be single assets, that could be portfolios, but large scale commercial real estate is what I'm involved with.
Awesome. Kind of reflecting on your time here at Hopkins, part of multiple teams that made it to the NCAA semifinals and national championship game in 2003. During your time, especially as a junior and senior, came up with a lot of young talent, Kyle Harrison, Chris Watson. As a captain, what was it like to play with those guys and kind of show them the way?
To see in particular that class of 2005 when they joined, it was incredible to see the maturity level of a lot of the players on that team, and to see guys like Kyle Harrison and Chris Watson and Peter Lasore mature into grown men, and to see what they accomplished on the field and winning a national championship in 2005 put a huge smile on my face. These were highly sought after high school players, but clearly a big difference between high school and college. And these guys stepped up in a big way and had remarkable careers for each one of those three in particular, in addition to every other member of that team.
Yeah, absolutely. During your time, it was a time where lacrosse was really booming. Final fours consistently looked like Hopkins, Syracuse, Virginia, Princeton, which is part of the reason why there was a push to move Final Fours to NFL stadiums. And I believe you were played in the first one at M&T Bank Stadium. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and what that was like?
Yeah, I mean, it was special. The game has grown significantly over the last 25 plus years. And to see the platform and to see the scale of the sport today relative to even back when I was playing in 2000, 2001, 2, and 3, it is eye-opening in terms of the growth. I mean, we always talked about lacrosse being the fastest growing sport in the country, but I think most people recognize that, as most states are actually playing lacrosse. I mean, parts of California and, of course, all across Canada and other geographies around the United States have all picked up lacrosse in a big way. And I think it's great for the sport. And, there's no place that you go now where you don't see young kids traveling around with lacrosse sticks.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty cool to see the sport grow. I mean, now you look at all of Division I teams. I mean, Division II, Division III, got guys from non-traditional lacrosse areas. Texas, California. I think we're starting to get a heavy dose of kids coming from like the Pacific Northwest. Washington, Oregon. So it's been really, really cool to kind of see that growth, and it definitely starts with that exposure that kids got during your time and really seeing lacrosse on the big scale. Can you tell the folks a little bit about, what is it like playing at Homewood? So kind of looking back at your career, your sophomore year, I know we lost in an overtime game to Virginia. I think that was 4 overtimes, right? It was pretty long game. And then go on and you never lose another home game during your career. So what is that like?
So it's actually funny. I had this conversation with a friend of mine today whose son is playing high school lacrosse. And I said to him, have you ever seen a game at Homewood Field? And he said, no, but it's supposed to be amazing, right? And, I said, there's no place like it in so many words. And, being in front of 10 to 15,000 fans in a small capacity stadium like a Homewood Field, and, seeing the history of the sport, seeing the history of the school, all the fans, is really the reason why I went to Hopkins. And I would encourage every young kid that's interested in lacrosse to see a game at Homewood Field. I'm looking forward to going back for our homecoming game in April. I know there's a big celebration for the 2005 team. This is 20 years out. And, I'm taking my son for the first time, who's 5.5 years old, who clearly has no idea what Homewood Field is, but I want him to experience it at a young age and understand the history and the tradition that Homewood Field has.
Yeah, really is a cool experience. And I think now we have kind of the on-field seating. So it kind of gives another level of just like that intensity to it. Especially in a game against a Virginia, a UNC, College Park, all those ones. So Ernie would be really upset if I didn't ask this. We wanted to ask you about the hit against Syracuse in the Final Four. In my opinion, all right, one of the most iconic images of the sport of lacrosse. I think we have 3 or 4 copies of that hit all throughout the athletic department in Cordish. So that's a staple of Hopkins lacrosse. Can you kind of take us back to that moment and what that was like?
Yeah, so I was a freshman against Syracuse, semifinal game, national stage. A lot of people in the stadium watching that game, and I was just a little freshman trying to play as hard as I could and really help our team in any capacity. And the moment and the opportunity presented itself to have a big hit on a friend of mine, Sam Bassett, and that hit was a memorable hit. I think the cameraman did an amazing job capturing multiple angles of that hit. So thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Cameraman. But, I don't even know if you could do that today. That's probably like a 20-minute non-releasable penalty. But it was a pretty special, legendary hit, frankly. And, it shows you that you can be physical in this game. But, I think the best part for me was that not only did I hit him, but I also got the ground ball after. And, you speak to young kids and you teach them about, lacrosse and the implication of picking up ground balls. And that's the first thing that every kid learns. So, it ruptured throughout the stadium. It was a big hit. It was a fun moment for me personally. But unfortunately, we lost the game. So, if we won the game, I'd have a better taste in my mouth.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those. I watched the highlight today multiple times, and it's one of those things where you watch it and you can just feel it. You're just like, oh, that one hurt me, and I'm not even there. Could you share with the fans some of your best memories of playing at Hopkins?
Yeah, there's so many memories. Unfortunately, we never won a national championship, and going out every week, competing in Homewood Field, competing around the country in, competing team stadiums, the friendships that I created, the mentorship from our coaching staff at the time, led by Coach Petramala and Coach Dwan and Coach Tierney. Those moments forever stuck with me. And, there are so many memories and so many things that, I'd love to relive. But, I'd say that for any young kid that's playing or embarking on this lacrosse journey, just soak it up and enjoy every moment, because all of a sudden 4 years goes by and, just like that, it's done. So make the most of it. And, I think I did make the most of it looking back on my career. I just wish that we had won a national championship, but it is what it is. Can't go back. But, for all young kids, just enjoy your time, because it will fly by.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And, when I'm talking to guys and, they're asking me the same question, your favorite memories, and, the games, the wins, they come and go. Those are all great. Those live in your memory, right? But it's kind of the relationships. It's the lessons learned, the takeaways that we walk away with that really last a lifetime, have been in many of weddings. Guys are starting to have kids and kind of experience that next chapter in their life, and being able to kind of share in those moments, well after our time here at Hopkins is something pretty magical. And I think that kind of shows the value of, the community and especially at some place like Hopkins. Kind of last question here for you, Adam. So you mentioned, executive vice chairman at Newmark, obviously an incredible kind of professional career after your time here. How did JHU kind of help prepare you for life after sports?
When I went to college, I had no idea what to expect. Hopkins is a pretty rigorous school, as we all know. But, of course, what we learned in the classroom has helped shape my career and future. But it was really, a lot of what we learned on the lacrosse field. Being prepared, being on time, all that preparation leads to, success. And, frankly, the lacrosse chapter that I had in my life set me up for, the working world. And it's been a great run, but a lot of those lessons learned were learned in college and in high school, frankly. And, those lessons have stuck with me forever.
Awesome. Well, Adam, we certainly appreciate your time and your insight. Always great to have alumni come back and talk about their journeys. And we're really much looking forward to having you back during homecoming weekend for a good game against Ohio State.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Brock. I'll talk to you later.
Awesome.
Bye.
All right.